my name is Ruby, and welcome to my reading recap. Big spoiler alert now. If you hear a title that you do not want spoiled, please skip ahead or click away. Any trigger warnings I think of, I'll list in the description below. Book 1, The Unwanteds, Island of Graves by Lisa McMann. I gave 2 out of 5. A 2 is probably generous for this. I feel like I'm trying to force myself to like the series at least a little bit since I'm already 6 books in and only have 1 more after this. In this installment of The Unwanteds, Aaron is imprisoned after killing the teacher in the previous book. He's being annoying and whining, which makes a lot of this book intolerable. While in his cell, he's yelling out demands and talking horribly to people. I almost quit reading because of how annoying it was, but I stuck it out. The people there starve him until he behaves, and then they have to teach him that in order to have food, someone has to prepare it, and in order to have clothes, someone has to make that, etc. He eventually turns his attitude around and starts cooking in the kitchen. After some time, his brother Alec shows up to kind of save him, but he doesn't really want to leave. But they also need his help, so he agrees to go and then return back here later. He goes back with them, they save a girl on the way, there's a big battle that kills Simba, Aaron performs some magic on him, and he comes back to life. Alex thanks him and asks how he did it. He says that he doesn't know. The boys seem to rekindle their relationship, and the book ends, saying everything is gonna change now. Most of the other books I was so bored that I hardly absorbed any of them, so I will give that to this one at least. I was able to follow the story. Book 2, CatStronauts 7, Cosmic Clutter by Drew Brockington. I gave 4 out of 5. It's been a while since I read the rest of the series, so I was a bit lost, but I did enjoy this. The group of Catstronauts go to space to clean up some space clutter. Waffles has to stay back because Major's dad, the first Catstronaut, is going in his place. Later, Waffles does end up going along too. They had a falling out before we got here. That's where I was lost. I don't remember that from before, but I do know they have a spin-off series that I haven't read yet, so maybe that happened there, or I'm just forgetting. Who knows? Book 3, Valerian and Laureline, number 22, Memories from the Futures by Pierre, Christin, and Jean-Claude. I gave 3.5 out of 5. Part of a French comic series I love. This is a collection of short stories, or memories, as the title says. We get a bit more of Laureline's backstory, and it goes through to the couple having kids. I did enjoy this, but the stories were a bit scattered in time and smushed together in the book. I think the various times would have made more sense if there was something differentiating each story. It was still good, I just wish I didn't have to try to figure out when a new story began. Book 4, Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. I gave 0 out of 5. A book published 179 years ago. For some reason, it's deemed a classic, but I couldn't be more confused as to why. I will say that I read this via audiobook, and the narrator was screechy and annoying, so that could have added to my dislike, but I don't think I would have liked it anyway. I thought this was a heartfelt romance, maybe like Romeo and Juliet, but no. It's just a mess of a mess, and so much is happening that doesn't matter. I do not care for this one bit. Book 5, The Dinner List by Rebecca Serle. I gave 1.5 out of 5. I was on a mission going through books at the library and was more focused on synopsises than author, so I completely missed the fact that this is written by the author who wrote 5 Years, which I absolutely hated, and expiration dates that I thought was stupid. So, oops. I picked another from this author, and I can pretty definitively say that I do not like now. I do enjoy the concept of the book. It brings to life the if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be conversation, but it's executed poorly. There's a hilarious review on Goodreads that summarizes it as calling the main characters basic bitch and fuckboy. Her dinner party consists of her fuckboy ex, I think a teacher, her former best friend, and randomly Audrey Hepburn. How did you ever think of that? You're named after Sabrina. It flashes from the boring conversation at dinner where everyone is like, why in the world am I here? And Audrey is awkwardly kind of mediating the conversation in the most cringe way possible. I'm not sure how the author envisioned this personality based on what we know of Audrey. It goes from that talk to flashes of the past to kind of explain why everyone's there. But it's 95% about how she met Fuckboy and tried really hard to find him again, which she did 4 years later. And they dated, then broke up so he could move. And then she cheated on him and dumped her next boyfriend when Fuckboy came back 2 years later. Bestie had a baby and left her behind. Sabrina and Fuckboy get engaged and then break up, and the last couple of pages are her reading a really old letter from her sister she's never met that says the girl asked their dad why her sister's name's Sabrina, and he says it's from the Audrey Hepburn movie where the woman isn't pathetic about a man. I may be paraphrasing, and that's what he hoped for her. I think this is to explain why Audrey Hepburn is there, but the author doesn't seem to realize how horribly ironic that is. Book 6, Aftershocks by Marisa Reichardt. I gave 3.5 out of 5. Ruby is a 17-year-old girl who plays water polo. Her former best friend is a drunk, so when she finds out her mom is dating her coach, Ruby goes to the laundromat to find a guy to buy her beer. She sees a guy journaling and walks over, asks if he'll do something, and then a 7.8 magnitude earthquake hits. There was another woman in the building too, but right as it started, she turned off the gas and ran out of the building. Ruby and the guy, Charlie, go under tables and the building crashes down on them and they both get wedged and pinned down away from each other. I was more concerned with her being trapped alone with this old man, but I guess he's only a couple of years older than her. I think he said he was 20. They're pinned for days. They get to know each other pretty well. He rudely makes fun of her water polo, saying it's not really that hard. I don't get why that was included. He says he'll go to her games. He journals and they agree to trade his journal for her ring. She tells him she wanted beer. I wonder if when a cute girl walks up to a guy and they get all flustered and excited only to find out that they only want alcohol is similar to when a guy approaches a girl and it's clear they only want sex or to touch on them when they thought maybe they'd get a nice friend. He says he wouldn't have gotten her beer and later explains that at a party he was rushing a fraternity and a guy was drinking too much. Charlie didn't stop him, the guy died, and Charlie feels responsible. This reminds me of the Gossip Girl episode where Serena's all, I killed a guy, when she just happened to be present when a guy overdosed on his own drugs. Charlie's guilt led him to drop out of college and move back here to his hometown. They struggle a lot. Aftershocks cause more of the building to keep crushing Charlie. Ruby pisses herself and later gets a stream of washing machine water. It's a little soapy, but she drinks it anyway. My concern isn't the soap. It's that you peed there and now you're drinking remnants of it. One day, Charlie goes quiet and Ruby understands that he's died. She hulks out of her spot and grabs his hand only to find it freezing cold, clearly with no life. She obviously hasn't felt my hands before. She slides a ring on his finger and seems to pass out and possibly get buried again, or the door is buried. Something like that, because she wakes up to a dog sniffing her hand and she gets pulled out of the rubble by a kind man who gets her to an ambulance. At the hospital, the elevators aren't working and she's carried through the stairwell full of dead bodies. She meets a nurse there who she really likes but gets separated from her as well when she's brought out of critical condition. In her next place, a mom comes in screaming looking for her son and Ruby gets the hell out of there. She's running to escape the hospital and try to find her mom, but sees a man dying in the hallway and stops to hold his hand until he passes. This is a bit funny to me because she was running to escape and then has time to stop. Drama, ooh. She passes a mom who threatens her with a gun and Ruby explains that she's just looking for her mom and then gives this mom her hospital sweater for her baby and a water for their family. Ruby heads off on her search and meets two teens who are driving around helping. They take her to her mother's office. The road is blocked, so they stop around the corner. Before Ruby gets out, they get Charlie's information and say it's their next mission to find and tell his family. She rounds the corner and her mother's office is collapsed. I don't know why the teens didn't wait to see if the building was even there. She wanders over and is told to stop and then realizes it's the guy who saved her from the laundromat. He's glad to see she survived and says he usually doesn't get the updates. He has a tent where phones work and offers Ruby to call her mom. Her coach answers and annoyingly won't tell Ruby if her mom is okay. He picks her up and takes her to a hospital where her mom is recovering. Now, suddenly she's happy for the couple, being angry about it before, feeling so trivial now, which is great because her and her mom are moving in with him. Ruby calls her swim team friends from Coach's phone. One died, but we as readers didn't really know her, so it didn't have an emotional impact. A group of them come to the hospital, they all hug, and the drunk one says she's getting help. Ruby reads Charlie's journal, and on the last page he wrote that a cute girl just walked in and probably wants him to buy her beer. What a weird assumption. I wouldn't do it, but I feel like it's a rite of passage to be asked to buy beer by kids. and I'm slightly bummed that I've never been asked. I may not look old enough yet, but it hasn't happened to me yet, so I wouldn't just assume that. A 13-year-old recently thought I was a couple grades ahead of her in school, so that probably explains it. 4 months later, Ruby finds Charlie's mom and gives her his journal. Ruby thinks that she's bummed she won't be able to read it anymore. Have you heard of a copy machine? Charlie's mom realizes the ring must be hers when she hears that she's on the water polo team. It's a team ring. So she grabs it and gives it back to her. Ruby's caught off guard. The ring was supposed to stay on Charlie, but they pried it off. So rude. She takes it back in hopes of feeling close to Charlie. She had a boyfriend this whole time, by the way. He survived as well. They had a fight before the earthquake about him telling her her hands were bigger than his and not understanding why that hurt her feelings. And now they're fine. All her reminiscing of him mostly just annoyed me. I think I only really cared for the peril and not so much for the flashbacks. It was still a good book, though. I got through it in one sitting. Book 7, You've Reached Sam by Dustin Thao. I gave 2.5 out of 5. Even though I'm giving this one a low rating, I do also recommend it. Make sure you're in the right headspace for it, though, as it's about grieving and loss. Sam and Julie were a teen couple of 3 years on the verge of graduation until one night he forgets to pick her up by an hour. She says not to bother, but he does anyway, and a truck swerves into his lane and kills him. It actually doesn't kill him instantly. He gets out and walks for an hour before he collapses and dies. Some people at school blame Julie for his death. She skips the funeral and his vigil. She pulls away from everyone. She calls Sam and he answers. Somehow she can call him and they can talk. He can't say where he is though, and he's kind of rude most of the time. Before the call, she throws away all of his things and tries to run from the pain and ignore it. After they start talking, she becomes desperate for him. She's looking for him. She goes into his room and takes some of his things. They spend hours each night talking until their mutual friend Micah, I think she's his cousin, but they're more like siblings. She gets mad and is very rude to Julie about her grieving process, so Julie tells her about the calls and has Sam talk to her. After that, Julie and Micah get closer, but Julie sharing the information about Sam makes her connection weaker. The word connection is used way too often in this book, between everyone, not just Julie and Sam, and by the end, I was sick of the word. There were also a few typos in it, which isn't the end of the world, but it is jarring when I hit one mid-flow. Julie and Sam's calls start getting spaced out more and shorter. What I meant earlier about Sam being rude is that he's not respecting her grieving process either. He's very pushy, refuses to talk to her about most things, and demands she do certain things that she's not ready for. He gets a bad feeling about his family and asks her to check on them. His little brother is missing, so she finds him. The little shithead is also mean to her about her grieving process. Can everyone just back off of her? Jeez. He refuses to go home, so she has Sam talk to him too. That nearly kills the calls. They get spaced over a week apart and they're only a few minutes long. They agree the last one will be on graduation night. They say their goodbyes then. The connection was only there until they said their goodbyes. He has her promise not to answer when he calls after they hang up. He leaves a voicemail, and that's the first time I actually felt like he liked her at all. He says talking about his legacy hurt too much because he wasn't going to be there to do it himself anymore. That he didn't want to talk about what they had planned on doing because she still gets to do them without him. He didn't answer these calls thinking she needed him. He answered because he needed her. She listens to the voicemail on repeat, which confuses me because all of their other calls didn't show up in her call log, so how did this voicemail save? That will be hard to explain if someone finds it in your phone. The whole point seems to be that you need to move on from grief, and that'll help our lost loved ones move on too. It's sometimes acknowledged that you always hold people with you, but it's heavily pushed to get over it and stop thinking about them. I like the idea of the story, but I don't like the characters' behaviors and attitudes on grief. So much potential that I don't feel like was wasted, but also don't feel like it was used to the fullest. Number 8, After You by Jojo Moyes. I gave 2.5 out of 5. This is the sequel to Me Before You, which I covered in my July 2022 reading recap. The first book also became a movie 10 years ago, which I'm feeling there's slim chances of this one being made into a movie, but who knows these days. In the first book, quirky Louisa takes a job as a caretaker, more so company keeper, to a quadriplegic named Will who she falls in love with. But he chooses a dignified departure or assisted suicide, and he's gone by the end of the book. Here starts a year and a half after Will's passing. She's traveled Europe a bit as per his request for her to live her life, and now has a flat in London, which he left her money for as well. She's working a horrible job, and one night she falls from her roof. There's an air of question at the very beginning if it was intentional, but for the most part it's deemed to have just been an accident. The paramedic who picks her up is Sam, who she finds attractive, and he inappropriately tracks her down later to pursue her. They date a bit. She repeatedly tells him that she's not ready for a relationship, and he keeps pushing her to be closer and to get over Will. I do not like him. He's always criticizing her, and it was inappropriate for him to even ask her out in the first place. He also tells her about his patients, which is highly dishonorable. He flips the script, so she ends up begging for him, and he gets a call of a stabbing victim, and she tags along, which is again very inappropriate. It's gang related, and he stands up, getting shot twice in the stomach, and she's applying pressure and yelling at him to stay with her. At the hospital, he says he hurt her, and it's understood that she does care for him, so they will be together. Right after, she gets a job offer to move to New York and have a similar job as she had with Will, adding on nanny responsibilities as well. She'd be working alongside Nathan from book 1. Sam overhears and tells her that she needs to take the job and that they'll do long distance. The book ends with him seeing her off at the airport, but that's only one of many storylines. A teenage girl named Lily shows up on Louisa's doorstep, announces that she's Will's daughter and wants to get to know his/her family. She's a tornado, constantly crashing in, inviting herself to live there, smokes all the time in Louisa's flat, which that alone gives the book 0 stars for me. I can't stand that. Smoking affects everyone. Even if you smoke in a room that no one's in, that room is tainted now, and you're affecting everyone who enters it. She's constantly eating Louisa's food, wearing her clothes. She invited people over who robbed her, but Louisa stood by that little devil because Lily's mom refused to. The woman even locked her daughter out of the house. Later, we find out during a game of Truth or Dare that Lily was trying to act all tough and wouldn't back down to a blowjob. Only the guy photographed it and blackmailed her with it. One time when the guy was blackmailing her on the street, one of her stepfather's colleagues had shown up and she told him what was going on, so the older man took the phone and took Lily to a hotel since she had been kicked out of Louisa's after the robbery and had been walking the streets for days. The next morning, he gets her breakfast and then shoves the photo in front of her and asks what she's gonna do to repay him for the hotel and getting the other guy off her back. He pulled her over to the bed, but luckily she ran and made it out of there. Louisa had thought Lily was at her mom's, so she went to check on her and finds out that Lily hasn't been in contact with anyone for 10 days. Only her mom doesn't give a shit about that. Louisa drives around forever looking for her. Eventually she's found, and after some time, Louisa suspects that something happened to her, so she tells the story of when she was a teenager, she got blackout drunk, and it's implied that she was gang raped. Lily spills out her story, and they bait the creepy old man to Louisa's flat with Sam and his work partner, Donna. They threaten to kill the guy until he gives up the phone. Lily confirms it's the one with the photo, and it's smashed. Lily punches the guy and leaves. That's great and all, but you expect me to believe that there are no other copies of that photo? Lily meets her grandparents. It's rocky at first, but then Camilla sends a photo album with stories of Will. It's rather precious. Lily ends up returning to school and living with Camilla. Lily gives Louisa some earrings that go well with the bumblebee tights. Louisa's family is bonkers. Her mother took classes on feminism and decided to stop shaving her legs and preparing every meal. She says that she'll shave again when her husband does, which I agree with. I don't want to touch body hair on any gender. He mostly complains, but by the end of the book, he's gone and had his legs waxed. He apologizes for the torture she's been experiencing for years by waxing and says she doesn't have to do it anymore. He just wants to be with her. Her sister moves into her London flat when she goes off to New York. That's all a lot, right? But the book is supposed to be about mourning. She attends grieving groups, and by the end, she opens her heart to love again. She rids herself of responsibility of Lily. More so, she's ridded of it against her will. She accepts the great new job opportunity and is letting herself be happy. There's a line from Lily where she tells Louisa, you know, you don't have to be sad just to stay connected to him, and I really like that. Other than Lily smoking and Sam being frustrated, I rated this low because I hate how everyone thinks they have the answer to mourning. Even in their group, someone mentioned how you're expected to just be fine after a few months, and I found that ironic because that seemed to be heavily implied in the book, to just move on. but it's also said to hold them with you. I don't like how it's handled, but I do appreciate that they didn't pull a "you've reached Sam" and guilt trip anyone for holding on as if it's torture to your lost one. Maybe books on mourning aren't ever gonna satisfy me. Book 9, Lady Susan by Jane Austen. I gave 1 out of 5. Something about Jane Austen's writing my mind rejects. I was so bored here. It's a collection of a bunch of letters, and I cared about no characters at all. It didn't feel like it had a point, just a jumbled collection of blah. Book 10, Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I gave 0 out of 5. I can't seem to get into Austen's writing. This one wasn't helped by the narrator screeching at me and putting on dramatic voices for everyone. I finished it a few days ago, and I already can't tell you what it's about. I remember unkind treatment of horses and women, and that's enough for me. I did finish it, though. I originally thought I'd make a video on Jane Austen's collection alone, but I really don't have enough to say on any of them. Girl likes boy for no reason, family is desperate to trade/sell off their daughters, horses are treated like less than, the end. I just don't see the appeal. I'll still finish all of these, but I'll leave them mixed up here in my reading recaps. That's all I have for today. I do have a huge backlog of videos to edit, some that are entirely dated now, but I still plan on completing. I'm not sure when they'll come out, just know that there are more in the works.